Hello and welcome to Baering the List, an ongoing series where I use TierMaker to rank things. Now, TierMaker, you're not a sponsor, but if you'd like to be, I'll let your boy know. So last video was about the dawn of Toonami, 1997 until 1999, when Moltar was replaced by Tom as the host. That was in the middle, like July of 1999. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the rest of 1999 into 2001, because there were a lot of changes. As you can see, looking at this list, we got a lot of shows that appeared in those couple of years. And there were a few in 2002, plenty in 2003, and plenty in 2004. So I don't know if my next video, I won't know for a while there if that's going to be 2002 or 2003, or if I will do 2002, 2003, 2004 all together. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that, but there's another one of these coming probably next week. Anyway, let's get into these shows. I am not going to be ranking any of the shows that were on in these years that I've already talked about. So we're not going to talk about Dragon Ball Z anymore. Dragon Ball Z is great. We got there. We did Dragon Ball Z already. It's S tier. Anyway, let's talk about Ronin Warriors. The problem is that Ronin Warriors is great, but I have to think about it as a Toonami show. And is it a great Toonami show? It shows its age. It was been over 10 years since it had debuted in Japan by the time it was on Toonami. It already had syndicated runs in the United States. It's not a Toonami show. It felt very old and felt so of its time, and the dub was never great. So sorry. I'm not sorry about Gundam Wing, because that's S tier. Now, I had already watched some of it subtitled. I'd gotten fan subs of it because it had been out for a couple of years by the time it showed up in the US. And it changed the fate of Gundam as a show. Whereas G Gundam, which was not out until 2002 here in the US, even though it came out before Gundam Wing. It wasn't on Toonami until 2002. So we won't talk about this today. But where G Gundam broke the mold and tried something radically different, broke the Universal Century, strode out on its own, Wing followed, and Wing did its own format change in that it put a bunch of pretty boys into some cool Gundams, and you didn't have to like the main character because you might like one of the other characters. And it really strove for shonen. Did it always succeed? No. Is it incredible? Yes. It is. There's no way I can't put it S tier. I'm a biased person. Sorry. Not sorry. Now, Powerpuff Girls, that's a hard one. Because Powerpuff Girls is a great show. But is it a great Toonami show? I would argue that it's not. I have a database of Toonami information. I am going to quickly attempt to find information about Powerpuff Girls and when it aired, when it got added, how long it ran. I'm looking right now. Sorry, I didn't have this up. Okay, so this ran off and on as part of Toonami for quite a few years. And yeah, it was even on the WB. I didn't realize that for around the same time. Okay, well, good for them. I don't know. I think Powerpuff Girls are great. Is it a great Toonami show? I'm going to put it in B tier. I think it's a great show. I just don't think it's a great Toonami show. That's my opinion. And I think that Tenchi Muyo is A tier. And you're saying to yourself, Pat, what the fuck are you talking about? Tenchi Muyo is A tier? And yes, because Tenchi Muyo is important. Because it is a show that the OVAs had aired, the two OVAs in there, and then we'll talk about the other series that aired as well, are part of the change. It is one of the handful in the beginning, and we're talking this right now, of anime that you didn't see moving to Toonami, that premiered in Toonami, that made its stake and made its claim in Toonami, that really pushed DVD sales because maybe you wanted to see the subtitle. You're starting to get interested in that. But it's a touchstone for a lot of people as it is must-see TV. It's part of that era. It's important. Uh, it is in many ways the inverse of the isekai, but it is a harem show, and it's full of strong, awesome characters, really evocative characters. Um, I remember talking to people about it, and they were like, "Well, what's the difference between that and the other one? And what does this mean? And what does it mean? It's an OVA, and it's like it's not based on anything. It's just an original video, which is the part of the hallmark of that series as it's gone on. But Tenchi Muyo Ryoki, just called Tenchi Muyo exclamation point in the U.S., is very important. Batman, the animated series. Now, Toonami had been airing Batman like movies, the hour and a half, direct to VHS tape movies, the specials. They've been airing those, but they hadn't been airing the actual series. And even so, that's why it's going in A tier, because I don't think people associate Batman. Batman is, watching it like on Fox, the WB. It's watching the syndicated. It's cable, but it's not. It's network cable. It's not. It's not Toonami. It's important and it's brilliant, but it's not an S tier Toonami show. This is Toonami shows. It's not shows. It's not cartoons, because then of course it would be S tier. Also joining in A tier, we're going to put Tenchi Universe. Just if not as important, in only because it basically had to teach an audience, a generation of anime fans, that OVAs and TV shows are different, because it's the TV version of Tenchi Muyo, which was direct to original video animation, direct to video, VHS and Laserdisc. I think there were Laserdiscs of Tenchi. Don't quote me on that. But this is the TV adaptation. This is the change things around. Some for the worse. I think that swapping Ryoko and Washu, I don't necessarily like that switch. Which one was in space and crashed on Earth, and which one was trapped on Earth for a long time and watched over Tenchi. But Kione, one of my favorite characters, because except for a brief period in a Tenchi show we're going to talk about in a moment, which we'll get to. Kione is the harem character who is not there to date or pursue Tenchi. No crushes, no complexes. Kione is there because she has to, because it's her job, and because of her partner being there. But she's got a lot of respect, and in fact, Tenchi does really enjoy that she doesn't spend any time flirting with him. In one of the other OVAs later, I believe there's more put on about that. I know a lot about Tenchi Muyo, which is why I can tell you that Tenchi in Tokyo, I contemplate putting this in D tier. But also, it's another thing that is important, because it does say hey, does this feel like a direct sequel to Tenchi Universe? Yes. Is it a direct sequel to Tenchi Universe? No, because some things are changed. Now, some of it is backstory has changed. And some of that is because of the inclusion of the new characters, like a new main character that Tenchi is in love with, I guess. And there's a villain that's cool, and she's got a cool look. But outside of that, they kind of ruin a lot of the characters, including Akane. I think that she is way cooler, and she becomes just just a shrew and not a badass who screams a lot and can back it up. She's just annoying. It's bad. It is the worst of the Tenchi series. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Tenchi Muyo anymore, and you don't have to hear me talk about Tenchi Muyo anymore. But I'll talk to you about Blue Submarine number 6. That's right, this is an OVA that blends traditional animation with computer techniques, digital techniques. It ran in like a course of I think like a week, and it ran several times in Toonami. It is incredibly important. For pushing that style, for introducing American audiences to hey, this is where animation is going. It also kicks ass. This is a cool anime. We are in anime zone, right? We have very few shows for me to talk about right now in this block at this point. There are 2 other shows to talk about that are not anime. Everything else is anime, and that carries on in 2002 into 2003. The anime years have begun. It's incredibly important for what Toonami became. The influence of Dragon Ball Z and Gundam Wing cannot be overstated in that they definitely influenced the idea that Toonami was supposed to be just like action cartoons, right? Which is why you have Superman. Much like Batman the Animated Series, we're dealing with Superman the Animated Series, which I never liked as much. Because I just don't think Superman is as interesting as a character in the WB verse, I think Justice League Unlimited, particularly Justice League as a show, does a better job. It's actually, in my opinion, a better, because I think when he is not the only hero in the episode, you can see him play off other people, which is why the crossovers with Batman are great. But I can't not put it in A tier. Maybe it's B tier. I think fondly on it. I don't know. Oh boy, this is so. Now we get into one that, even though I'm biased, even though I put 2 Tenchi shows in A tier, can I put Outlaw Star in A? Can I put Outlaw Star in A? If you don't know Outlaw Star, it's an action show. It's adventure. It is the pirate stuff. There are spaceships with mechanical parts, so it's kind of a mech show. There's immortality and a cat girl and a cool samurai lady with her own code of ethics. There's an episode that does not air on Toonami because it is an onsen episode. It's got a really good theme song, which they didn't change for Toonami. They aired it. They were like, it's good. It's a B tier show. Look, here's the thing. You don't see Gene cosplayers, even with having a cat girl and a cool, young guy hacker character, and it's got all the elements to be awesome. And it is. It's just not. It's just not a big deal. But I think Outlaw Star is pretty great. That song rules. Okay, so this is tough. We are talking about great Toonami shows. Cardcaptors is not a great Toonami show. Cardcaptor Sakura is a cool anime. Cardcaptors is an example of one of the last great bad dubs, because it is heavily edited for television. In order to try to appeal to boys who are not the target demographic of this show, and should not have been the target demographic of this show, but were perceived to be a target demographic of cartoons, they cut a bunch of the early episodes. They cut a bunch of episodes because they were like, well, we got to introduce the boy. Once the boy gets there, it's why it's called Cardcaptors instead of Cardcaptor Sakura. It's a terrible dub. It attempts to reduce the subtext of lesbian love. It does not do a great job of it, but it does attempt to do it. It attempts to not make Sakura the main character, which she is. The target demographic for this show should have been young ladies who think that Sailor Moon rules, and boys who think that Sailor Moon rules, because they would have liked it. To tell a brief story, I used to, in the early 2000s, around this time, I worked at a store that sold fan subs, which is illegal. I should not have been doing it, but I did it. I worked there. And there were people that came in because they knew that they'd heard, hey, I heard there's a better version of Cardcaptors. Hey, I heard there's episodes that didn't air. Hey, I heard the subtitle is great. And these are all different kinds of people that would go to an anime store in a mall, Japanese import store and buy anime. I'm saying all this because I'm putting Cardcaptors in C tier because Cardcaptors sucks. Cardcaptor Sakura rules. Cardcaptors is bad. Oh, No, that's next. Sorry. I got really excited about being able to talk about Dragon Ball. I got to talk about Mobile Suit Gundam. Mobile Suit Gundam. This is a fucking tough one, y'all. The original was airing on U.S. television. It happened. Gundam is here, motherfuckers. That's incredible. It's the second of 3 Gundam shows airing on television in America. And it only ends its run in the U.S. because maybe after a terrorist attack, we don't want to watch an anime about colonies and that crash on places and terrorism, which is true. It ended its run, and then eventually the last episode didn't air until New Year's Day in 2002. Look, Gundam is S tier. It's incredible. It's important. I talk about shows that don't age well and that were past their prime by the time they end up on Toonami. That is not the case. Also, as I said, we're talking anime, motherfuckers. We're going for it. We're doing it. It's happening. You want to talk about cultural impact of Toonami? Dragon Ball Z was so popular that we got Dragon Ball back. If you don't know, because some people that watch this might not know the history. The first 13 episodes of Dragon Ball was dubbed and no one ever heard of it. When it first was coming out in Japan, it was dubbed. No one ever heard that dub. It didn't work out. Then it came out, but only the first 13 episodes came out. And they were released and they were ran in syndication. And then nothing. And then they would run again and get here and there. And then Dragon Ball Z, the original run of Dragon Ball Z, the first saga, got dubbed. And then when it came to Toonami, it exploded, especially with the uncut versions. So much so that people were like, Dragon Ball's pretty good. There's a lot of it. So then you could watch Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And for fans that, that unlike me, who didn't go out and buy VHS tapes of fan subs of it because they wanted to know who Krillin was, wanted to know why people were scared that Piccolo was helping. Who's Piccolo? They wanted to see all this stuff. Who's Tien Shin Han? Who's that guy? You gotta watch Dragon Ball. I got to watch Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball. It's Dragon Ball. Have some of the jokes aged incredibly poorly, and even in 2001 were not good jokes? Yes. Is Master Roshi a problem? Yes. Could you rank it lower because of those problems? Of course. Am I going to put it in S tier? Yeah. It's fucking Dragon Ball. We got more Dragon Ball, motherfuckers. Hell yeah. Dragon Ball Z was so popular, they were like, let's find out more about this. Let's go. Red Ribbon Army, what's that? Let's learn. And when you see the androids later, you're like, androids, I get that. I'm going to be honest with y'all. Some people love 8th MS Team. I don't love it. I like it, and I like where it's going, but I don't love it. But it's A tier. It's good. This video is long, so I am kind of zipping through these last 3. Mainly because I'm zipping through 8th MS Team and Batman Beyond, because I have to talk about Zoids, and I don't know where else I'll ever talk about it, okay? So, look, 8th MS Team is not my favorite, but I think it means a lot to a lot of people. I think that is a great starting point for people because it is a contained thing that people can jump into. Go for it. Batman Beyond. I didn't really like Batman Beyond. I think my favorite stuff of the character Terry is his one weird episode in when they got an extra episode in Justice League Unlimited. That and there's some stuff with him and Static Shock, a grown-up Static who rules, and I hate that Static is not in the DC universe because he's he should be in more shit, and the movies that come out he is not, and it sucks because Static rules. Static Shock, I'm not ranking, but it's great. But yeah, Batman Beyond, too many Sons of, like actually having Mr. Freeze's head. I don't need that. Having too many villains that were just other versions of villains from that. Just do your own thing. Just do your own thing. Old man Batman with his dog. I don't know where to rank Zoids. So, this is Zoid's new century, right? So, here's the thing about Zoids. If you just watched the two Zoid series that aired on television, this one and then in 2002, Chaotic Century, you'd be like, oh, new century, Chaotic Century. Huh, it's weird. The second one's way more of like an anime, and the first one seems to be way more of like a stripped down, just like almost akin to like a different kind of series, the non-traditional, like, oh, because that's what happened. We got the second one first. New Century is a sequel. The original is a time as a post-apocalypse, a war. War rages, and there are these incredible AI-driven machines that seem to have souls and are connected to humans that pilot them, and it's this battle, and it's a bit of a harem show, and there's some wacky characters, and a guy with a cool eye patch, and it's this whole thing, right? Because they want to sell these toys. These we got to sell Zoids. These toy machines you can make. They're model kits. There's the just the figures that run around. That's little whatever run around. They got little motors and move around and the whole thing. There's magic in the first one. The second one, which is this one, Chaotic Century, is more just like team racing, but instead of cool cars, it's Zords, and the Liger seems to like be way more like, this Liger seems more special than the other Zords. Sorry, not Zords, Zoids. Sorry. The other Zoids, this seems a lot more like it's got a soul. Because it does. And you don't know that if you haven't watched Chaotic Century. Because if you watch Chaotic Century, you're like, oh, they stripped all the parts out of it. So it's good, but it does itself a disservice. And it does Chaotic Century disservice, because when you watch Chaotic Century, you're like, whoa, they really made this anime. Well, that's where they started. They made it less anime. So Chaotic Century with the original is more anime. New Century, which aired in 2001, where Chaotic came out in 2002, the sequel is less anime, and we got that first, and it's C tier. And I talked myself into putting it C tier. No show is D tier on Toonami so far. Just Tenchi in Tokyo D. Tenchi in Tokyo is not D tier because there is some good stuff in it. Mainly there's some cool art design in the villains that are always pretty cool in Tenchi. Yeah, that's it. Next video, 2002, 2003, 2004. We'll do one video, do all of them in there. I made this. This is me. You can see me in the bottom. I made this. Tiermaker.com is a website. You can make stuff. You can find other ones. I'm going to continue this Toonami breakdown because someone needs to rank all Toonami shows, and that someone is me. If you agree, leave a comment down below. If you disagree, leave a comment down below. Let me know. Share this with a friend. Argue about that you think Batman Beyond fucking rules. Let me know. If you think that by putting I got too much Gundam in S tier, maybe Dragon Ball isn't an S tier show. 8th MS should be up there. Maybe you're a Tenchi Muyo, or you're a Tenchi in Tokyo defender, and you actually think that's the best. I don't know. Whatever. I'll talk to you soon.